Welcome Psych 310 students. This is my week 4 commentary in this spring 17 semester. This week is the first of really 3 weeks where we study the issue of how to formulate personality and the matter of prediction personality as far as predicting future behavior. This week is all about the trait approach, and the key to understanding this is to compare and contrast traits with types and states, and then take into account the role of situations. Those are all variables that need to be taken into account as one develops ways of predicting behavior. That being said, I want to express my appreciation to students for their work on the discussion board. I've been working my way through a large amount of activity there for this time of semester, and I must say it's a good piece of work. There's some good conversations going, and many of you have taken the initiative to find resources that bring the material in Funder to life. So my thanks for that. The second, moving beyond that, let me note that this is our week for you to get done test number 1, which means the test opens is accessible to you. However, let me be clear, you will also have next week to finish it. In other words, the window will close at the end of next week, which is on the 18th as we go into the winter break. So the access window to the test will be open for 2 weeks. You have the prep notes now. There was some concern that the test covered more than the first 3 chapters, but I believe it is, in fact, consisting of items from the publisher that are associated with the first 3 chapters. So if you have particular questions or items that you're fuzzy about or think maybe belong later in the text, please bring those specifically to my attention. I'd like to address those if I can figure out which ones they are. So those are points, yes. Oh yes, I did want to compare and contrast personality traits with personality types. And that is not a distinction that is clarified well in chapter 4. However, it is important. Essentially, types are an overall description. If you think about it, it's one box in which or one pigeonhole, to use Funder's comments, in which people can be placed. And traits, by contrast, are really building blocks of a personality. Think of it, if you must, as pieces of a personality, as opposed to types being the whole of the personality. So as you are looking at more of the research literature, be careful how the terms types and traits are used, because they do matter. Let me add, also not dealt with in chapter 4 in any useful way, is the opposite of traits, which is to say states. And think about state of mind, and think about controversial issues like temporary insanity, and when responsibility for extreme behaviors are being attributed to people. This issue of state of mind becomes important. So traits are enduring, and they're across situations and across time. They're tendencies or probabilities of behavior. They're not predictions of the specific acts. By contrast, states are temporary conditions. Think about an intoxicated state, or even in a rage state, or a hypnotic state. So states of mind are part of the predictive equation when we're trying to predict behavior. And being that they are temporary, They are the antithesis or the opposite of traits. Finally is really the gem of chapter 4, which is the study of situation and the power of situations. Walter Mischel is the very well-known pioneer in this area. So as you read the chapter, pay particular attention to the contributions of Walter Mischel. Finally, I've added in this week's folder a reference to C. George Bourret, what he calls his ultimate theory of personality. Professor Bourret is now a professor emeritus. He was down at Shippensburg's College down in Pennsylvania, and really a very fine psychologist who had a range of interests, including personality theory. So he put many things on the web that are very valuable, and his reflection on ultimate theory of personality is it's a good thing to think about, because insofar as we have, all of us, ultimate judgments about personality, in a manner of speaking, those are very similar to the idea of an ultimate unifying theory. And Funder deals with this same issue, but he uses a different term. His is OBT, or one big theory of personality. So you'll see two well-known psychologists grappling with this question about there being an ultimate theory of personality. I prefer looking at it more practically and thinking about theories of personality, be they trait or type or psychodynamic and so forth, as tools in a toolbox. But more on that later. Finally, I wanted to note that this is the first week looking at traits and the great fascination that personality psychologists have with differences. And notice, again, critical thinking is important here. Notice how we study differences more readily than we study commonalities. So I think we will, hopefully at the next workshop, have the opportunity to talk about how it is we study what we have in common, as well as ways of differentiating people. The study of differences is very consistent with an individualistic culture, but many cultures of the world are collectivist, and hence the study of personality as common elements takes on entirely different meaning. When one starts to go beyond this particularly Western fascination with differences. So that will be in chapter 6 and chapter 5. Next week is a 2-week chapter, prepare yourselves. And we will take up also next week the theme of judging personality. Personality judgment, which I've asked you to start discussing on the discussion board, and now we'll see that it's the concern of many psychologists in the field, and indeed has a great deal of practical importance, about which I'll comment next week. Last item for this week, I've asked you to post in Blackboard a preliminary outline of your course project. This is moving into the middle part of the semester now, and I want to push you really to get started with your course project, knowing that you can't really do a decent job in the last 3 weeks or so of the semester. So please post an outline, even if it's a very drafted, in other words, preliminary outline, just to signal that you're getting started, that you're beginning to build a plan or a set of goals for your project. I think you'll find this to be a good investment of your time at this point in the semester. I will look at those, and I would ask each of you to contact me in real time so that we might talk about them at least by the time we get to the winter break, which is in 2 weeks. So that's a final item. That outline, I am asking you post it. It is not a graded assignment as such, but rather it is a stimulus to your becoming more active in developing your project and consulting with me, so that we might set you up basically for a good result. So that's my commentary for this week, and keep up the good work on the discussion board. Give me a call whenever I might be helpful. And good luck on this week's test.